Hey guys, what is up? This is Matthew Davis me once again. Welcome back to another movie review, aka After I Saw. This time is going to be on Meg 2, The Trench. In this film, we follow Jonas Taylor, played by Jason Statham, as he returns for another one of these movies. And in this film, not only do we have one Meg, but two Megs, or I think it might be three. There's also an octopus in it, and yeah, they're going out killing people. And listen, do you really care about what the plot is? Because I really didn't. The first movie I thought was fine, but I haven't watched it ever since I saw it in the theater 5 years ago. It was just made just to entertain people and not much else. I don't know what the idea was to just give the Meg a sequel. I mean, sure, it did pretty well when it came out, but was anyone really begging for a sequel where throughout that movie it was just nothing but Jason Statham fighting a giant megalodon? And this film really isn't any different, other than there's other creatures as well, but this movie really doesn't do anything super special or anything like that. Okay, let me just say one thing, okay? The ridiculous, all that stuff doesn't happen until like the last act of the movie. As the first hour or so is just people walking down the ocean trying to discover some stuff, or I don't know. The point is, I thought this movie was super boring. Like, the first hour of the movie was so bland. It has all these characters that are just completely one-dimensional, and I did not care who got killed off whatsoever. Sure, people didn't really come here for a great amount of interesting characters. Pretty much any monster movie, like any of the Godzilla or King Kong films, you do not expect a memorable character whatsoever. At least Jason Statham is back, that's one thing I will say, because he's probably the most interesting part of these movies, though he's far more serious in this one. In fact, there is far more seriousness to this film when it does come to the action not being on screen. I mean, sure, it's not necessarily a film to fully take seriously. Now, there are parts to the movie where the action happens above the surface and not with the fish, but with it honestly plays out like some generic action movie when it comes to people fighting against other people, and it was just very generic, and it just reminded me of better action movies out there. It was just so hard for me to get into this movie. Like, after the first minute of the film, it immediately just slows down instantly, and nothing interesting or remotely unique happens until much later on. But was it really worth it in the end, just to see all the ridiculousness come? Well, not really, because most of it just feels the same as in the first film, just with more creatures. And even with the addition of new creatures to the film, it really doesn't do anything special. It's just like, here's more creatures. This is exciting, right? But really, though, I honestly could not find a single piece of enjoyment throughout this entire thing, because it just reminds me of those generic B-movies that we saw like in previous events. Like, I honestly had more fun with some straight-to-TV movies, because those films were on much lower budgets and they were easy for me to make fun of. But right here, because the movie is on a much higher budget, there really isn't that much for me to make fun of, because the movie does try to attempt at making some convincing CGI. And is a lot of it convincing? Absolutely not. You guys are probably going to think I'm crazy, but I honestly found more enjoyment in Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. Like, yeah, that movie is awful. That movie is garbage. But I just found it so funny how that movie wanted me to take it seriously, but I just couldn't. That movie, I laughed so hard during that movie. Right here, I didn't chuckle really, because not even the humor worked at all. The humor just fell super flat, in the dialogue, it was just so lacking. I couldn't even find a moment that was worthy of a chuckle. And sure, the movie is a little less than 2 hours, but seriously, there was so much they could have taken out of this movie and it wouldn't change it whatsoever. It just felt like it was going on forever and ever and ever. I'll honestly take a 3-hour-long biopic that has no action or violence or blood whatsoever and is super heavy on dialogue than a ridiculous creature feature like this that takes so long to get into, because that movie honestly felt way shorter, just due to the fact that most scenes don't drag on. Each scene feels like it lasts 3 minutes. There are just moments in this movie that felt like they lasted 20 minutes. In the end, guys, Meg 2: The Trench is a sequel that has absolutely no purpose whatsoever. Sure, you can enjoy it for its ridiculousness, but literally there are tons of different ridiculous creature features that already exist that have similarities to this film. This is just a film that I don't even know why it was made in the first place. It honestly feels pretty pointless. And yes, people said the same thing with the new Indiana Jones, but I feel like that film at least tried, you know, to revive a franchise, and that was already part of a franchise. This right here is just a sequel to a film that really never needed a franchise, and it doesn't do anything super spectacular. While it tries some new things, the new things didn't really do a whole lot. The only new things is the new creatures, so calling it The Meg is kind of pointless. It's more like the ocean. It basically tries to make Jurassic Park if it were in an ocean, but literally there are times where Jurassic Park had ocean sequences that were far more entertaining than this. This is a sequel that did not need to exist, and it's a movie that I'm going to completely forget, and it's just going to sink down in the bottom of the ocean of my mind. There are tons of great movies that are out in theaters right now you could be watching, neither of which are this film. Like, seriously, with Oppenheimer and Barbie, both of those films were worth watching, and obviously it came out the same day. With this, the only new film worth watching is Ninja Turtles. You could just watch Ninja Turtles, those other two movies I mentioned, Talk to Me, Mission Impossible is probably still playing. I just recommend watching all those. I mean, sure, if you really think it's worth all the boringness that plays out throughout a lot of the movie just to get into the action, then sure, you can watch it. As for me, yeah. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Word out.